Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Howdy, all y'all. This is red.olaughlin, and we're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. I host this show and a couple others. This show today, we're going to be talking to a very well-known author and learn some of his trade secrets on how he increased sales. While I have you here as my undivided audience, I want to tell you the very next show is the Talking Heads. And I'll be doing section 5 of 6 sections on weight management. Today, we're getting more involved in how do you actually lose weight? What things have to happen in order for that fat cell to get out and become burned up, and you actually see a difference in inches and pounds. But that's the next show. That's approximately 1 hour from now. But getting back to the Wise Ones, I am honored to have a return guest. He's been on here a couple times already, Mike Kowis. Mike, please join us.
Hey, Red. Glad to be here.
Mike has a number of titles he wears. He's an author of many books, a lawyer, a professor, and he also has experiences driving around the state of Texas in a wild vehicle. And I'm not sure we'll get to that today, but we have talked about it in the past. But my main emphasis in inviting Mike back today is the fact that he's one of the few authors out there that has had success with sales. There was a meme I saw the other day on Facebook yesterday, the day before. It says, loan a man your wallet and he can live for a week. Have him write a book and he'll starve the rest of his life. And for people who have published their books, many times all they want to do is just be a published author. They're not interested in making money. But a few of us do want to make money on selling our books. I don't know that Mike has cracked the equation and profited as profitably as he wanted to. However, he has been successful. But first off, Mike, tell us how you got into the author game to begin with, and let's talk a couple about your books, and then we'll kind of mosey into the field of sales.
Sure. So I guess it was about 6.5 years ago when I released my first book about teaching. It's called Engaging College Students, and it was just basically teaching tips that I acquired while I've been teaching at a local community college since 2001. And so I just really felt passionate that I wanted to get a book out there, and I wanted to be something I felt, passionate and interested in. And I love teaching. And so I decided to write a book about that. And then when I launched that, very quickly after that, my second book followed. And ever since then, I try to do about one a year. And I've had pretty decent luck. I've sold pretty consistently about 1,000 copies per year, every year. And, it varies a little above, a little below, but it's pretty consistently averaging about 1,000 copies a year. So I'm really happy with that progress so far. I'm not Stephen King or James Patterson by any means, but this is kind of fun, like a side gig for me. And it feels like I'm being successful in the sense that I've found an audience, and worked really hard to do that, of course.
Now, is it fair to say you're a self-published author?
Yes. Yeah, all my books are self-published. And my first book about college teaching tips, I was actually intending to try to be traditionally published. And I pitched, I made some inquiries to small and medium-sized traditional publishing houses and didn't have any luck doing that. And so that's when I discovered, self-publishing, and decided that I would try that. And it's been, a love affair ever since, because I've really enjoyed the process and the control that you have over the process and the final product. And so I've just done that with all my books, and I've never looked back, I guess, as they say.
Okay, on your first book, you spent a lot of money, as I remember, and some of it you learned lessons from, some of it was successful. Tell us about the first book and the sales process that you did then, and then we'll come back later on and talk about what you're doing today. But for a brand new author, out of the book, self-published, you started doing certain things, and spending money was one of them.
Yeah, so my first book, actually I have a copy here called Engaging College Students. And this book was like you said, it's my first one, and I overspent. I'll just be blunt about it. So I spent about $7,000 to self-publish it and market it for the first 90 days. And ever since then, I've learned a lot of lessons, and I try to keep my budget closer to $1,500 to $2,500 is my budget per title when I roll out a new one now. But the first one I overspent. I did things like I used an expensive person to make the cover. I think I spent $830. Now my budget is closer to $300 to $500 range. I entered way too many book contests so that I was desperate. I thought, well, it's my first book. I don't know if I'll win any awards. And I really wanted to stand out amongst the crowds and be an award-winning author. So I entered 10 book contests, and I won 3, which is great, but that means I entered 7 too many, So I spent like $80 on average. So I think I spent $800 on those 10 contests, enter those contests. So since then, I don't do that. I only enter 3 or 4, for example, and just with the hope of winning one, because that's all you need to say that title is award winning. So I learned a lot of lessons like that as I went through that process. And the editor I used was kind of on the pricey side. I've since used someone else or a couple of different people. So I've discovered other ways to cut back on the cost. And then the real benefit is if I don't spend that much money on the book, I don't have to sell as many copies to break even, and then I can start earning a profit sooner. So this book that I spent $7,000 on, I decided, I estimated up front, I need to sell at least 2,000 copies to break even. And I've sold about 1,450 copies. So I'm not quite there yet. And honestly, I may never be because the sales have really slowed down because it's been, 6.5 years since the book came out. And so I'm still selling, but they're not big numbers. So that one, I learned a lot. And so with the next one, I used those lessons. And the next one was the most successful book I've had. It's the self-publishing guide called 14 Steps to Self-Publishing a Book. This one, I spent $1,500 to self-publish and market it through the first 90 days. So big difference in the cost. And I figured I only need to sell 700 copies to break even on this one. And thankfully, I've sold over 4,500 copies so far. So this has kind of been my gravy train, if you will, and it's funding all the other books that have come out since that haven't been as successful as the first two, really. But again, if you're careful about the cost, you don't have to sell as many to break even, and therefore you have a better chance of making a profit. So that's a good lesson to learn there.
Do you have a preliminary number of sales before you start writing your next book? In other words, I know you're in the process now. I've seen several of your social media posts where you're looking for A, B, C, or D on book covers. So the next book you're coming out, are you saying, I really need to sell 700 in order to break even? Or is that something that evolves after the book is out?
So that's a great question. What I like to do is I do research, and I know you do this too, Red, but I research the market before I launch the book. And that way I kind of have a basic idea of the budget. So in other words, the book I'm writing, I'm about to release next is my 6th book, and it's really a sequel to this one. So it's Texas Off-Road Racing 2. This first one is my worst selling book. I only sold about 100 copies in the last 3 years. But it was a really fun project because I documented the good times that my son and I had racing together in one of these off-road vehicles. And it's a great way to kind of promote the sport that we love, which is off-road racing. And so I went into that with eyes open because I looked at Amazon and other places. And you can look on Amazon, you can see the ranking of similar books to mine. And I discovered early on, before I published the book, that there's not a big market for that kind of book. So that doesn't mean I don't write the book. It just means I'm going to write the book with being very, very careful with the cost, because chances are I won't get my money back. And so that's the kind of project. Again, it's a labor of love on that particular book. Other ones, I think I had, a better shot at making a profit, so I would spend more. That's sort of the concept. And so that's kind of the way I approach it. I look at the title, look at similar books, see what their rankings on Amazon, and you can go do like a Kindle, Amazon ranking calculator. If you just Google, Amazon, I think Kindlepreneur is a big website that has one of those calculators. There's others. And basically you put in the Amazon ranking and it tells you what the typical sales are per month or per day. And so if you happen to be in a genre and the top 10 books all have they're good rankings, like less than 50,000, that's probably going to be a marketable situation where potentially you could make some money if your book is good. But if the top 10 books, none of them are in, above 100,000, they're really bad rankings, then you may be in a situation where you're not going to potentially make a lot of money, even if it's a good book, because there's just not a big market out there right now. So again, you just got to look at the market and then kind of guesstimate what your chances are of getting your money back. And that's the way I approach it.
I have a dog in the background in case you haven't noticed.
That's okay.
But
I got one too, but mine's being quiet right now. So
well, they're usually on guard duty down at the front door, and I don't know what's going on, but they're on guard duty, and I can't do anything about it. I apologize.
That's okay, no worries.
But getting back to your author analysis up front, your competitor analysis, that's something that I take new authors through, showing them who their competitors are, what categories they're in, what keywords they use, a lot of things that you really should know about the market ahead of time. However, I was not taking them to where they really need to go with regard to sales. And what you pointed out today was something that I do not do for my clients. So I appreciate you kind of going into that a little bit, because that is important. If you're expecting to make money and the sales volume for that particular category, genre, whatever, how it's classified is not very good, then the expectation for making money should not be very good. Now, there may be a romance novel that does exceptionally well. I know some people that are making tons of money here in the Houston area. I mean, tons with theirs, but they have an established book and series and whatever. But just coming out as a brand new author, that's not something you kind of fool yourself a little bit, think, I got something that everybody wants. But then how do you let people know that it's there? I mean, you just can't expect people to find you. How do you tell people that you have a new book out or that your book exists?
Right. That's a great question. And that is a tough one right there for all authors, whether you're brand new or not. But trying to get visibility, that's what I call visibility, is how do you stand out amongst the millions of books that are already on Amazon? And I've read statistics. I don't know if they're true, but I've heard that it's been, typically over 1,000 brand new books will be uploaded on Amazon every single day. So, it's tough. You got to stand out somehow. You got to let the world know that your new book is out there. There's lots of different practical ways that you can do that. If you have a big following already, it's easier because presumably you might have an author website, and you'll have where the people that visit your website can sign up for your email list, and you can blast out, emails. Hey, my next book is coming out. Please go check it out now, whatever. So there's lots of advantages if you already have an established audience. But if you're brand new, like you just said, it can be trickier, but there are ways to do it. Social media is big. You want to have your presence out there. Having an author website is important. And I think there's lots of things you can do as far as ads. I've had really good luck with Amazon ads, not necessarily for all my books all the time, but like for the one I'm using, I told you my biggest seller, this self-publishing guide, I've had the most luck consistently since day one when that book came out about a little over 6 years ago. I've been using ads ever since, and it's been remarkable. And I sell about a third of my sales every single year come directly from my Amazon ads, which is big. Now the ads themselves, I just try to break even. I'm my goal every year with those ads is that I spend about as much on the Amazon ads as I make on the profit, the royalties from those particular sales. If I break even, to me, that's a win-win, because even though I don't make money on the ads, I've reached a bigger audience at no cost. And that same audience can either buy my other books, they can leave hopefully 5-star reviews on Amazon, they can tell their friends. So there's a lot of benefits from having more readership, even if I don't make a profit, because I spent a couple of bucks on the Amazon ad or whatever. So I highly encourage people to try different ads. I've tried Facebook and I've tried Google ads and Goodreads and other things, but none of them compare, at least from my experience, to Amazon ads. I've had the most luck with those. So that's a great way to get out there. You can do book signings. Those were really popular before COVID and the pandemic hit. There's lots of opportunities like book fairs and things like that. So there's ways to get out there. I do about 10 to 20 author talks a year. A lot of them are free. And that, again, just trying to build the audience, trying to build the brand, get in front of people so they can discover your books. And there's lots of ways to find opportunities to give talks about your book. You just have to do the legwork. So for me, I go to meetup.com, which is a popular site to help you find groups in your area on whatever hobby you might have or whatever interest. It could be bird watching or politics, people that sit around and talk about politics, or how to self-publish books or whatever it is. It could be a book club. So if you're interested in finding groups in your area, people that are like a writing critique club, there's tons of different clubs all over the United States, all over the world, really. But I go to like meetup.com and I find groups who might be interested in hearing me give a free talk. And then I offer the leader of the group, I'll say, hey, I wrote a book on this topic, self-publishing or book marketing or whatever. I would love to come talk to your group of new writers and give them tips on how to self-publish and that sort of thing. And many times they will say, yeah, because they're looking for free content and I'm looking for an audience. So it's kind of a win-win. So I'll do that. I've gone to local colleges, Lone Star College where I teach. They have a program where you can give talks to senior citizens, and it's a volunteer, so I don't make any money, but it's a great way. Again, I'm connecting with a potential audience. Hopefully I'll sell a few books or what have you. So again, there's lots of, if you do the legwork, hopefully you can find groups that contain your book's target audience and get in front of them and, just try to get exposure. And if people like you and they like what you're talking about, hopefully they'll buy your books and things, build an audience that way. So I hope those are good tips that help.
Yeah, you had actually several of them. First one I wanted to go back and touch on is website. New author, no intention right now of writing another book, just want to be a published author. Probably no big need for a website. But if you have a future, okay, I have a part 2, like your 14 steps. There may or may not be a post-pandemic version of that book because things have changed. Hint, that might be next year's book. I don't know, but anyway, there's reasons for why you might want to write some additional books, and maybe that's the case. Now you have a dilemma. Do you name the website after the book, or do you name the website after the author? Is there a particular brand involved? There's a lot of things that revolve around that decision to have a website. Now, if Mike Kowis has a website or red.olaughlin has a website, I may just use my red.olaughlin and brand myself. But if you're looking, if you're a motivational speaker or some other business entity, it sort of depends on which way you want to go. What's your thoughts on websites for authors and names of websites?
Yeah, so for the names, I can definitely tell you what I did, which I think it's laughable now because I know better, but at the time I didn't know better. So my very first website was the title of my first book, Engaging College Students. So I thought that was brilliant. I didn't have plans for future books. I was only thinking about this one. So I had the website, engagingcollegestudents.com, and I put everything about this book on there, and then what happened? 4 months later, I launched my second book, the 14 Steps book, and I thought, aha, what do I do now? Do I build a whole new website around the new book? That's confusing. I didn't think that was efficient. So I knew right then that I'd made a mistake. So ultimately, the goal was to create a new website where I could put all my books and all my speeches and everything about my authorship journey. And that's what I've since done. And now I have MikeKowis.com, and I've just put all my books there, all my speeches and reviews and awards and all that stuff. And I think that's a lot simpler, and I don't have to maintain more than one website, one for each book. I think that would be very costly and time consuming because you're always updating websites. You're adding speeches that you're giving or new awards that you won or testimonials or what have you. So I didn't want multiple websites. I wanted one simple one, and I just did it based on my name. And so that's just one way to do it. There's other ways to do it, but that's what works best for me. What was your other question, Red? I forgot already.
Well, it's fine because I think you covered it in the midst of talking about why you changed to your name as the author, which includes other things you can do. And you really kind of just plowed right into it and said, okay, this is the big picture and this is what I need to do. But you also mentioned having an email list, which if you have a website and you welcome people to share their information with you. I had a mentor several years ago, and one of the things that came out as part of this mentoring was you need to hear something at least minimum 7 times before you fully understand it. Well, sometimes we hear things and yeah, I hear what you're saying, but to fully understand it, sometimes it takes second, third, fourth, fifth. And for authors, I'm sure it's going to be the same. Now, he used to have a saying, still has a saying. He says, it's easier to make $50,000 in 1 month than it is in 1 year. He says, incredibly, it's easier to make $50,000 in a week than it is a month. In fact, you can make $50,000 in a day easier than you can make $50,000 in a week. He says you can make $50,000 in an hour easier than you can make $50,000 in a day. And if you have 200,000 people on your email list, that makes sense, especially when people are really following you. But you have to spend time to get that email list up, to get that visibility, as you were talking about earlier. If you had 5,000 people on an email list and they were actively interested in Mike Kowis's progress as an author and other things, 10% of them might have buy a book because it's something that they want. They want to have all Mike's books. And so that email list, even though we don't think about it as an author, is a very vital part of our business. That's something that we should be cultivating and getting all the time. And the networking that you do when you go out to talk to these groups, that's one of the things that you can give a free, what do you call it, ethical bribe, I think is what they use in the terminology nowadays. Yeah, I'll give you a free version of my book if you give me your email information. But that for a new author is gold, but you have to also know how to write. You can't just sell on your email. You have to provide value to them too. So it's a double-edged sword, but you got to know which way to swing it for the value to get out of it. You talked about Amazon ads. Some people, I mean, I have not done an Amazon. Well, yes, I have done an Amazon ad, but it was a very limited one in a class that I was taking. That we're going to put some money up. We're going to do this to make sure you know how you're doing. But it wasn't something I followed up with because it wasn't something I understood well. Could you go a little bit more into detail as to what is an Amazon ad? How do you go about figuring out how much money you want to spend, what keywords you want to use, and how do you go about making it happen? I think that's important.
Absolutely. And before I explain my understanding of how these ads work, I will mention that there is a free class on how to use Amazon ads, and I've taken it twice. It's Brian Cohen, Cohen, I believe, and he's on Facebook, and he has you just search for Brian Cohen Amazon ads, I'm sure you'll find it. But he does this a couple times a year, and it's basically a 5-day Amazon ad challenge, I think is the title of the Facebook page that he has. And it's really a very helpful tutorial, and I've done it a couple times. Even though I've been using these ads for pretty much 6.5 years, since day one, I've been trying the ads. And again, some of my books have had better success than others. But now let me just give you my high level understanding of what the ad is, how it works. It is essentially a pay per click ad. So what you're doing is you're going to go into, if you have your book published through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, either your ebook or your paperback or now your hardcover, it doesn't matter, either one of those, you can go in through your KDP dashboard and you can buy the ads. And so I do the sponsored ads. There's another type as well, but I just do the sponsored ads, and I'll create a new one. And essentially what you're doing is whenever someone goes into Amazon, they type in a book like yours. Let's say it's a tax trivia book like this. There's a lot of trivia books, not many tax trivia, but if someone types in tax trivia book, hopefully they'll see this pop up in the regular list of books. But you might notice at the very, very top or at the very, very bottom, you'll see one or two books that says sponsored ad next to that little icon for next to the cover of that book. And there'll be one or two sentences that follow that explain that book. And that's the ad. That's what you're paying for, is you're paying for one or two sentences next to the cover of your ad, and it's shown whenever someone types in a keyword similar to yours. And so that's kind of what is the way it works is once you just create a new ad, you're going to go in and enter keywords, and keywords could be one or multiple words. It could be a term, could be tax trivia book. That would be one keyword if I want it to be. And you're going to enter up to 1,000 keywords. I recommend at least 100 to start with. So you're going to type in all the different things you can think of: IRS history, tax history, IRS trivia, everything that's related to this book, CPA book, CPA gift, anything at all that might be relevant to this book. I'm going to type in those keywords for that one ad. And then next to each keyword, they ask for a bid price. And that's what you're going to pay when someone clicks on your ad. And that's important. So you may start out with like 25 cents for each keyword, or 50 cents, or what have you. And then what happens is when the ad begins to run, you don't pay every time they show that ad to people. That they call it impressions. So it may be shown 1,000 times the first week. You don't pay for that 1,000 impressions. You only pay when the one or two people click on the ad and look at it. And what's really cool about Amazon ads that I love compared to other ads like Facebook ads is that this ad keeps track of not only the number of times it shows the ad to people and the number of clicks, because that's when you pay, but it also shows how many sales you get. So you know exactly which keywords are resulting in sales and which ones are not. So after a period of time, could be a week or a couple of days or whatever, I go back in and I check my ads, and then I tweak the bid price. So if some of my ads are getting a lot of sales, 2 or 3 books this week, I'm going to go increase the bid price on those keywords. If other ones are getting lots of clicks, so I'm spending money, but I'm not getting any sales, I'll either decrease the bid price or turn off that keyword. And so over time, in theory, your ad should get more efficient and more cost efficient. You should get better sales with the same amount of money or less. But I have found some ads get stale over time, no matter what. So I may have an ad that lasts 6 months, and then all of a sudden nothing that I do to it makes it, profitable or makes it generate sales. So I'll turn it off and I'll start over with a brand new ad for that book. And then it may last a month, it may last 6 months or a year or two. I don't think I have any ads that run more than 2 years that didn't go stale at some point. But anyway, and sometimes I'll start a new ad because it's Christmas time and I want something in there about, hey, this would be a great gift for CPAs or whatever. So sometimes I'll just run extra ads like in Christmas time because I know my sales are going to be up anyway. So that's the kind of strategy. That's kind of how it works. I really encourage you to play around with it. The cool thing is you can set a budget. So maybe $2 a day. So it doesn't go haywire on you and you spend, a couple $100 the first week. You can put a daily budget. And then that way it's not, it's just kind of a user-friendly, fun little tool. It won't cost you a ton of money just to try it out. Again, that'll work for all of my books. But if you have at least 10 or more Amazon reviews, and they're really good reviews, like 4 stars or above mostly, then I've found that I have better luck with my ads. If I have less than a 4-star average review, for that book on it for Amazon customer reviews, if it's 3 point something or less, my ads don't tend to do well. Or if I have less than 10 reviews, the ads don't seem to do well. So the more reviews you have and the higher the average, the better chance your Amazon ad will be effective. At least that's what I found with my books. Does that help?
Absolutely. Now, is the number of reviews within the purview of the new author? I mean, obviously we want reviews, but you just can't send a PDF copy of your book and they write a review and it ends up on Amazon because they may not be a spender on Amazon, so they're going to be declined. If they're have this, their last name is Kowis and they're writing a review for Mike Kowis, that's probably not going to get published. So reviews are kind of finicky. Sometimes people say, I wrote a review, here it is, that's what I said, but it never shows up. So reviews, I find, are extremely valuable, especially the first 72 hours, if you're trying to get a number one best-selling author. So the reviews are critical. The number of sales are critical. The keywords are critical. Now, as an author, you can go in and change your categories. You can change your keywords. You can change the cover of your book. You can change a lot of things. But for a brand new author, somebody, let's just say they're spending $2 a day on Amazon ads, and 3 months later, they're not seeing anything. You would just say, well, you really need to tweak the ads a little bit more. You may need to change your categories. You may need to, there are several things there that authors can do. So if somebody, let's assume that they did enough due diligence to get into a category that they should have some sales, that they've done their okay, I should expect to get some sales, but I'm not. Is there something you could offer as a potential option? Stop, cease, desist, change, what?
Yeah, good question. So there could be a number of reasons why the ads aren't working. First of all, I would look at my overall sales. So if my overall sales are pitiful or gone down to zero or whatever, really low, then typically my ads are not going to be real effective either. It's kind of like if the book is a big seller, I can expect better results from my Amazon ads. If the book only sells 1 or 2 a month, I'm probably not going to sell a ton of these books just because I run the ads. So, I don't know why the relationship is like that. It could be it's something maybe in Amazon's algorithm that's all secret. Nobody knows how Amazon picks which books to show when you type in keywords that you want to search for. But I'm not talking about the ads in general, but any book. If you're just searching for any kind of book, Amazon doesn't tell everybody the algorithm that they use when they, to choose which books are going to show. So I tend to think that if you have a book that sells really well, Amazon's going to show it a lot anyway, regardless if you buy ads, because Amazon's in business to make money, right? So that's really what I think of Amazon. It's like a search engine, but it is a bookstore. Of course, they sell other things besides books, but they're going to display the books that, that make the most profit. I would think that they're going to show that book a lot more often than other books that don't make them much money. So number one, you want to work on sales overall, not just your sales for your ads. So that to me is even a bigger issue than whether the ad is profitable or not. If I'm not getting sales overall outside of the ads, then I want to know that, and I want to work on that. And that could be, like you said already, there's a lot of changes you can make. You can change the cover. Maybe you look at the reviews you've got, and if you have a bunch of negative ones, maybe there's typos, whatever it is you can do to correct that book. You can always make revisions, which I've done. Actually, this book, I've had like 2 or 3 different revisions since it came out, like you said, because there's been a lot of changes in the industry in the last 6 years. So there's a lot of things you can do to improve the book's quality overall. If you don't have enough reviews, Amazon reviews, that's a big one that you can work on, especially when you're a brand new author or a brand new book comes out. How do you get reviews? You can do book giveaways and ask people to consider leaving a review, but you can't do quid pro quo, as you know. So you can't say, I'll give you a free book in exchange for a review. You cannot do that. But you can do book giveaways. I do a lot of contests where I give away books. And so I give away either hard, paperback copies, or sometimes I'll do ebooks. So I do a lot of giveaways and encourage people to consider, never requirement, but consider leaving a review. You can also buy, it's kind of like BookBub, where they do an email blast to their people, and they do a cheap ebook. And then a lot of times when people buy those, ebooks, a certain small percentage will leave reviews. So you can do BookBub, which is hard to get chosen for BookBub. I think it's like 20% of authors that apply for the BookBub ad actually get picked. So it's really difficult. But there's other ones that are easier to buy the ads. Self-publishing review.com is the website. They do something similar to BookBub. It's not as expensive, and I've done that. And you're not guaranteed, but you're given like a range. You spend X dollars, like $300, and they'll blast it out to their people. And then it's not a guarantee, but they'll suggest you'll probably get 7 to 10 reviews within 3 weeks or something like that. So there's different strategies like that to get reviews. So these are all things to consider to get your sales up overall, and hopefully that will translate into better performance from your Amazon ads. But at some point, if you're just not getting sales overall and your Amazon ads aren't working, it may be just, hey, let's turn off the ads for the Amazon ad, and I'll buy ads for a different book, or I'll write a new book and I'll try the ads on that one. Because these ads don't work for all of my books. They work for a couple of them really well, and but not all of my books. So just got to keep that in mind.
Okay, so the main thing is you don't want to be hemorrhaging money and not know why. And if you are hemorrhaging money, there are options, but you also have to have a budget. And when that budget says you're there, that's it. You wait till the next month comes up or whatever it may happen to be. So, but I think new authors, these are our babies. We don't want somebody to call them ugly. We don't want people not to buy them, but life goes on. And as you say, maybe the next book is the secret to your success. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and give you a minute or two here to let you tell people, how can people get in touch with Mike Kowis, and what value can you give to them?
Yeah, great. So people can find me at mikekowis.com, MikeKowis.com. And on that website, I list all my books and the speeches that I give, and, the different reviews, lots of different things. And there's a way to contact me there as well. You can sign up for my email page as well. And then occasionally I'll blast out something like, the next, if I'm doing a big sale on a book, or if I'm doing a giveaway or something like that, I'll blast it out occasionally. I don't do a great job. Like some people, their authors will do a great job of having like a newsletter, and that's wonderful. I just don't have the time to do that with mine. But it is what it is. I'm happy with the website. It's been a great way of reaching people, I think. And that's where people can find me at mikekowis.com. They can also email me at mike.kowis.esq@gmail.com. So that's the other way to find me.
Okay. What are the primary topics that you talk about as a speaker? So if somebody wants you to speak to their group, what kinds of things do you feel very comfortable speaking with, and then you can do it easily?
My most popular speech is by far is how to self-publish a book. I do that several times a year. Another very popular one that I give for author groups is, different marketing book marketing tips, if you will. I've also given copyright tips for authors, and I've also talked about how to set up an author business. So, you want to think about creating a sole proprietorship or LLC or what have you, and you want to keep track of your income and your expenses and all the business side of the authorship. I mean, everyone thinks of authorship as the fun part, which is the writing and being creative, and that is the fun, exciting stuff. But that's just half of it, right? You have to be smart about it, think of it with a business mindset, and hopefully you can be profitable and you can earn enough money to spend on the next book. So you really need to concentrate on both the business side and the creative side, in my opinion. So those are the types of topics I typically speak. Also given speeches on one of my topics is how to be an effective college instructor. So I've given speeches on that as well as other topics. But anyway, those are the big ones that I give talks on frequently.
Mike, thank you so very much. I really appreciated your time today. You added a lot of value to the show, as always. You have some insights that even some of us experienced people in some of those fields. Well, I didn't know that. And I picked up some stuff today, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to our next chat, because you did talk about copywriting and with AI and everything out there. that might be a viable topic down the road for an author to know about. What is really something to worry about on copyright when I'm using AI to generate some of my books? So anyway, with that, I'll just leave that thought in the back of your mind. That may also be another book in your repertoire of things coming up. So anyway, Mike, thanks very much, and appreciate you being here on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Thank you, Red.
And with that, I am getting ready to sign off. Red.olaughlin here. Next program up on the USA Global TV and Radio Network is Talking Heads. And today's topic is section 5 out of 6, phase 5 out of 6, regardless. It's the 5th out of a 6-part series on weight management. And today we're diving more into the metabolism and what really works, what doesn't work. So please join me. If not, it's on the archive on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And with that, I bid you adieu and thank you all very much for joining us, and look forward to catching you next week. Take care. Bye now.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating warm memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.